what needs to be going on. Never thought we'd see this day. I'm even telling you, I'm not even sure this day is going to last. But big shout out to everybody tuning in. Apologies for the weekend. We are premiering right now. And I had to watch this race. I had to watch this race in a very compromised situation. I had to watch this race with very limited ability for network for some reason. But I'm here. And big shout out to you all. Finally, Max Verstappen gets his penalty, but we got a lot of things to get to before we get to that. We got a lot of things before we get to before Lando speaking about as if he just now realized that Max Verstappen was dangerous, which is totally crazy to me. Max Verstappen's been dangerous. Big shout out to RacerX210, first in the live chat, making sure he was first because his team, Ferrari, came in first this weekend. But did they come in with the driver in whom they thought should and will be the driver of the future next year? They came in via Carlos, not Charles. And this is going to be a consistent conversation that we're going to have. Did Ferrari make the right choice with the driver that they have selected to take them into the future? And honestly, I got to wonder myself, did they make the right decision? Do some of you think they made the right decision? So we'll see what goes on. Next in the live chat family is Mary Beanie. She is second in the live chat. And who is third? Tori Tacklin is third on the podium for family in the live chat. So big shout out to you all. So let's get into this. The Mexican GP was very, very, it was very, very eventful. It was very eventful. I will say that. I was very surprised about a few things. I was also very disappointed about a lot of things. Tori Tacklin says Max is trash. Brother, Max is trash when it comes driving wheel to wheel. Let's just keep it real. Max Verstappen is trash when it comes to driving wheel to wheel. I don't know how else to say it because he shows it all the time. His ability for wheel to wheel driving is trash. And this is proven because anytime he gets wheel to wheel to somebody, I'll say majority of the time, because I will say that the sun does shine on the dog's ass every now and then. Majority of the time, Max Verstappen is wheel to wheel to somebody. Somebody's getting pushed off track. There's a collision, or somebody is getting dive bombed. That's what's happening. Max Verstappen does not have a master of arts ability. Buck Rogers won. What's going on, Buck? What's up, Jay and Wolfpack fam? Big shout out to Buck Rogers joining us. Max Verstappen does not have the ability to drive wheel to wheel. And he gets a 20-second time penalty, which is really, really late. This is late. This should have happened a long time ago. Okay? You hear Kenny Bugs talk about it all the time. Charlie White would not have taken this. But let's look at a couple of other things that took place in the Mexican GP real quick, because some of these other things were enlightening and kind of surprising, but they're also rookies. We got Colapinto here with a 10-second time penalty. All right. 10-second time penalty, collides with car 30 at the exit of turn 2. 10-second time penalty, and now has 2 penalty points for a time period of 12 months. All right. And if we read down here, says Colapinto was attempting to overtake Lawson at turn 1. He was not quite fully alongside. Lawson ends up, I believe Lawson ends up with a bit of damage on his front wing and has to go into the pits to get that front wing changed out. Colapinto, to me, he is a rookie. So let's not overreact on Colapinto. I think there might be some unfair criticism on Colapinto, on Lawson. These still are rookies. I know Lawson came in a little bit, but this is going to be coming up his first full-time, not full-time because he still didn't get in the full-time of the season in the car, but this is his first real time where he's not worried about having to get the seat back. He's going to be in this seat. Colapinto is trying to audition right now, hoping that eventually he'll get an opportunity in the seat. And if he can, he would like to keep that. I don't think this is going to shadow any of that. I don't think it is. These things happen on track. Now, I will say this. Let's say that this, throughout the rest of the season, continues to be something that is going to be a growing habit, is going to be something that we often see. RacerX210 says, hate to see Carlos go, but he will be a strong driver for Williams. Ferrari is looking to finish strong and clinch the World Constructors Championship, and the GOAT will be champ. Man, that's a tall order right now, though, Racer X210. That's a tall order, brother. If we're talking about the Constructors' Championship right now, Ferrari did slide in the second. There's about 30 what? There's about 30-something points, maybe 20-something points. It's around 30, 20-plus points for them to get that. I'll say this. I really like what I saw. I really like what I saw from Carlos especially. Charles kind of choked a little bit. Let's just keep it a buck. Charles kind of choked. Charles choked with his battling of Lando. It really wasn't even a battle. He just had to keep the car in front, needed to take clean lines, have good entry, good exit, and he choked. He ended up losing the car, almost wrecked it. Fortunately, he didn't wreck it. 30 points. Appreciate you, brother. Fortunately, he didn't wreck it, managed to keep the car on track and at least finish out with 2 Ferrari podium. Nasty Stu says Ferrari looking good for next year. That's what I'm talking about right now, Nasty Stu. I think Ferrari's looking good for right now. I think Ferrari's looking good for, listen, by the way, we're going to have F1 Minute tonight, okay? We're going to have F1 Minute tonight. Nasty 2, Racer X210, K5, all of you in here now, come over to the live show. The link is already posted. The link's already up. Come to the live show and let's have this conversation in person as well. But I think Ferrari's doing good for right now. I don't want to fully invest in Ferrari because we've seen this before, right? We've seen Ferrari have some highlight moments or two, and then the next thing we know, Ferrari's falling off the cliff. I don't want to get too involved in that. By the way, we only have 4 more races left, so I'm thinking what we're going to do is probably collect as many live chats, put as many live chats or super chats in as you can before we spin the wheel to see who's going to get this one, and then we're going to have the next 3 races collect more super chats for the next giveaway, and that will be a multi-prize giveaway. So all the super chats now going into this weekend will be collected for this. So get them in while you can. But I think for right now is good. I don't want to go too far and say Ferrari's looking good for next season because a lot of us thought Ferrari was supposed to be looking good to come into this season. And it really hasn't looked that great. It really hasn't looked that great. So I think we should taper expectations and allow Ferrari to prove to us that they really are moving forward, that they really have found what's going on and they're building on it and progressing on it. I think that's the right thing to do. I think right now, if we look at the body of work overall, it's very mixed, very convoluted, very diluted. And I don't think you can make a strong case if you look through the whole season to say they got it. I think that if you look through Ferrari's entire season or up to this point, at least body of work, you're saying to yourself, do they have it? It looks like they might, but can I be sure they have it? I think that's really kind of how you got to look at it. So Ferrari, to me, would have to finish out the entirety of this season like they have these past 2 races for me to feel like, okay, going into 2025, we could possibly see something magical. We could possibly see that Ferrari are going to come out with a platform, a car. We're going to get to see the car launch. We're going to hear the team up on vibes. We're going to hear the team up on energy. We're going to see in testing. We're going to see in the beginning of the season that Ferrari's going to come out strong. And then through those next few races in 2025, they'll stay strong. I need them to finish out 1 and 2s, maybe 1 podium just outside of podium. I need to see Ferrari consistently in the mix. And if they take over the Constructors' Championship, then I will then feel more comfortable to say Ferrari is looking strong in the 2025. Right now, what I can say is they're far stronger than the 2025 plan from Trump. I will say that. And I also will say this. I do recall, I do recall, because I recall pretty much. I do recall we had a conversation here not long ago, and there were people talking about politics don't belong in sports. I remember that. Very, very fondly, I remember that. And so what I do want to say is that some people speak before they think, and some people just talk because they want to trick you into things, and some people are just really racist and want to hide it. But last time I checked, just this past weekend, and I got to share this because people act like we can't pull receipts. Here is a football player, college football player for Texas Tech Raiders, scores a touchdown, lifts up his football jersey to show Trump 2024, Make America Great Again, as he wrote it on his shirt in permanent marker like a child in a class, couldn't even get it made professionally. But that's what he did. So that's sports, right? That's sports. There is a football player, an athlete involving politics in sports. So for everybody that comes here when Max does things and when Trump does things and when they feel like, oh, the politics don't align with my racist agenda or my bias agenda or my discriminating agenda or my homophobic agenda, then politics don't belong in sports. But obviously, politics are always in sports. So I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to say that. I'm bringing it up on the show again tonight. I will be bringing it up on the show again tonight. But like I was saying, Colapinto, no shade to him. Things do happen. I still feel very confident that when given the opportunity to continue progressing in the sport, that he looks like a talent that could be formidable. We'll see. All right. But let's also get to Yuki. Let's talk about Yuki real quick, because Yuki had a very horrible day. Yuki was looking good. Doesn't get to finish this race. He and Alex Albon come into a collision together, managed to DNF both, and then that's a wrap. Yuki, to me, was looking very promising. Free practice can unlikely be a catalyst for you to decide what's going to happen on race Sunday. It's not, nor is it responsible to do. Free practice is time for these cars to maybe prove to us that who's going to be maybe running top in qualifying. And then when we get in qualifying, things are even different, right? Qualifying is not even going to be a full picture until we get to the Q3 session. And then that's not even a complete picture of what happens on Sunday. But Yuki was looking good through some of these events. And I honestly felt, okay, with what he's doing, what was he like, top 3 through FP2, FP3 or something like that? I felt that Yuki would finish the race at least in points. That's where I was aiming for Yuki. Like, he could finish in the top 10. It doesn't happen. The collision takes place. Yuki's out of there. And I will say right now, Yuki is looking a bit troubled here. I hope that he can finish out the rest of the season on a high note. And on a high note, to me, would be there's 4 more races left. Can Yuki finish 1 or 2 of these races in points and at least at the top shelf of the 15? Can he do that? To me, that's finishing on a high note to where he is. Also, Liam Lawson, not looking bad, but kind of sloppy drive, I think, a little bit. I think maybe a little bit of a sloppy drive for Liam going out of this weekend. Also, only finishing 16th. Okay, so that, I think Danny Rick is quite possible of doing that. I think Danny Rick plenty of times probably finished in the bottom 20 or, bottom 10, 15 area, bottom 15 area somewhere. But I will say, how about Kick Sauber not bringing up the caboose this weekend? Kick Sauber not bringing up the caboose was absolutely not refreshing, but odd. I would say it was odd. And I thought for sure they were going to bring up the caboose, but let's just be fair. 3 cars out just gave him a little bump. 3 cars out just gave him a little bump. Colapinto finishing up there, but let's get to some other things. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about Mad Max. Let's talk about Mad Max. I think we should talk about Mad Max. Mad Max needs to be talked about. Finally, they do what needed to be done. Max gets 20 seconds worth of time penalties. And it's about time. And you know what? Had they really done their job throughout this season, Max quite possibly, with the amount of penalties he would have received, which we're going to look into it right here. Max Verstappen, GP, first one right here we're looking into is forcing another driver off the track. Now, before we go completely into this document, I do want us to take a look at something. I just want to say that while seeing this very, very oddly similar to what we saw in Texas, I just gotta say that was there not penalties that should have been issued in Texas? Because I'm going to tell you, there wasn't a lot of difference in this situation from the other situation. And I do know the small differences can make the little nuances that cause the outcome to be different. But let's just keep it real, folks. Let's just keep it a buck. I think there was so much heat. There was so much heat. There was so much chatter. There were so many commentators. There were so many outlets. There were so many people. There were so many spectators talking about how could Max Verstappen do what he did, and you all use the regulation of just ahead at the apex to justify the menacing actions of Max Verstappen. That's what they did. They used just ahead, just barely ahead at the apex as a catalyst to say that's why he was able to push another driver that far off track. Let's look at this picture, folks. I want you to look at this picture. Matter of fact, let's look at this picture in a big way. Let's look at this picture in a big way, because I'm not too sure that this is that much different than Austin. I mean, Lando, it's like, depending on how you draw your line and where you are, who's really ahead at the apex? Lando, Max, and this is what's crazy to me. Now you give him a 20-second time penalty. You should have been giving Max Verstappen a 20-second, 30-second race ban grid penalty a long time ago. A long time ago. This is where he should have been a long time ago. And this is what happens when you allow, big shout out, we got Mechanic Mercedes. Let me make sure I'm not missing these super chats. Let me see. Mechanic Mercedes says hard to root for Lawson because of Yuki. You know what, Mechanic? I agree with you. Mary Beanie says, all hail Johnny Herbert, giving my final 2 penalties. If Woody didn't hold up Lewis, he would have got a podium. Ferrari should have kept Sainz. Mary Beanie, I agree with you as well. I do agree with you, Mary Beanie, about that as well. And I am, although I know it's not the popular opinion, although I know maybe it's not the best thing for longevity as far as a driver and an athlete having more years in front of them than behind them, and maybe the future ceiling of the possibilities of this driver's talent. I am with you, Mary Beanie, when it comes to talking about Ferrari possibly should have kept Sainz and then let Carlos go. So I just feel like Sainz is the more complete driver right now. I feel like he's the more complete driver, and I feel like being the more complete driver right now, I feel like they shouldn't probably discount his ceiling. That's how I do feel, so I'm with you. And then we got a super chat. Mechanic Mercedes says hard to root for Lawson because of Yuki. And I'm with you on that too, Mercedes. I'm with you on that too. I think it is hard. It's not hard. I'll say this. It's not hard to root for Lawson because I think Lawson's decent. I think Lawson has what a lot of people feel Charles have over Carlos, but I think it's more valid here. I think we've seen a body of work from Yuki, and I don't want to short Yuki at all. No pun intended. I don't want to short Yuki. But also what I will say is Yuki's had enough time to show us what and who he is. He's had enough time to show us what and who he is. He's also had time, and he's used that time to show us what and how he can change. Lawson, however, has come in with little experience compared to Yuki and done pretty okay. Now, this is what I said, and I'm not moving off that. If Lawson goes, I like that. If Law goes the rest of the season and he finishes like we saw him finish, I'm not going to be too high on him at that point in time. I don't know where Yuki finishes in this race if he completes it. I do know that I felt Yuki would have finished in the points. Lawson didn't do that. Lawson's drive also didn't look that great. Okay, so I'm going to wait for my complete thought about Lawson, Yuki, what's the better investment? Should one be allowed to go somewhere else or one be allowed to step up? because inevitably, I think some people are looking at this as a race to the Red Bull seat. I think people are looking at the Lawson and the Yuki situation as a race to the Red Bull seat. Okay. So I will say that. And then Mechanic Mercedes also super chat says, sorry to deviate, big bro, but the message rally yesterday pissed me off, and Red Bull reminds me of MAGA, so I can't root for any of them. Hey, you know, brother, you know, hey, no need to apologize. No need to apologize. We all get passionate. I think we all get emotional when we have certain takes or we witness certain things. I do appreciate your character and your integrity that you even thought to apologize all day. I appreciate you, brother. But I'm gonna say this because you keep it 100. I'm gonna say this: Max fans are not. Let me backtrack. Let me backtrack. Some Max fans are and do have a parallel to MAGA fans, and it is true. They just do. And you'll often find that some of those Max fans agree with Trump philosophies. I'm pretty sure this Texas Tech Raider football player that I just showed you on the screen, I'm pretty sure that he's a Max. He might be a Max Verstappen fan. I'm just telling you. You know, you put politics in when you think they should be in, and when you don't, when they don't suit you, you do it. So yeah, no need to apologize, but I feel you on that for sure. I do feel you on that. Also, let's talk about this. Let's go ahead and look at the Max document that we got right here as we were looking at that. Let's just look at this, because to me, he, of course, breach Appendix L, Chapter 4, Article 2, Bravo. We've looked at that before. You look at it. Now, 10-second time penalty right here, and a total of 6 for the 12-month period. So Max is halfway there to a race ban. He's almost close to a race ban. Almost close to a race ban. He's got total of 6 right there, right? Total of 6. And finally, let's look and see what the stewards say. It says Norris was attempting to overtake the outside of Verstappen at turn 4. Norris was ahead of Verstappen at the entry apex and towards the exit of the turn when he had been forced off track. Stewards believed the maneuver was done in a safe, controlled manner and that Norris would have been able to make the maneuver on track. Where were you all in Austin? Because that clearly is what happened in Austin. He was forced off track. He avoided the collision. It is what it is. But this is what we mean when this is how we're validated when we say that the FIA are consistently inconsistent. This is how we're validated. Mechanic Mercedes says the racist comments at New York rally was terrible. Man, I did hear about that. I saw that a UPS driver was putting MAGA flags on all type. It's crazy right now. Buck Rogers says, work time, take care, Jay, and Wolfpack fam, still we rise. Buck Rogers, brother, you take it easy. Big shout out to you. Mechanic Mercedes says, Charles looked upset after the race. Charles did look upset after the race, but Charles probably should be upset at himself after that race. And so I just don't think that we saw anything a lot too much different here than we saw in Texas. And so now he's getting penalized. So let's go ahead and look at the next document. Right here again, Max Verstappen, car number 1. Breach of Appendix L, Chapter 4 to Charlie, all right? And 10-second time penalty. You know what I thought should have been applied here? You know what's missing here? This part's missing. This is what's missing. Right here. I think that's what's missing. Okay? Forcing another driver off track, 2 penalty points. Right here, leading track game. I just think maybe we should have got some more penalty points in there. But gaining that advantage, off track, blah, 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 no penalty points. Okay. I would also think to add in the fact that erratic driving. Max Verstappen, and people, you believe what you want to believe, but it is proven. Max Verstappen's wheel-to-wheel driving is below par. It is below par. He needs the most dominant car. He needs to be out in front, or it's what we pretty much saw in Texas, what we've seen before, and what we're probably going to see going forward unless this somehow has Max. And you know what's funny? If Max dials it back, you're going to see Max overtaking a lot more than you have. If Max actually drives the way a driver should drive in good standing and good character and good integrity, you're going to see Max get overtaken quite easily. Because Max's driving ability as far as wheel to wheel, because this is wheel to wheel. Anytime we see this, it's just running you off track, force you into a compromising situation, run you wide, cause a collision, dive bomb you. He does not have the ability, or he has yet shown the ability to wheel drive in a very good fashion. Now, I'll say this. There was a time that he drove, and I don't know if this was in France or where it was, but with Russell, I think there was a little bit of in some S's and out of some turns with Russell where it was kind of But then before we saw with Russell back in Baku some time ago, where Russell held his line, needed space, Max didn't give it, and then they end up in a collision as well. So more often than not, Max is going to end up in a collision or running somebody off track when he's so-called wheel-to-wheel driving, which I'm not one to say that Max is a good wheel-to-wheel driver. So, yeah, I do think here's your other 10-second penalty points or 10-second time, and he gets 20 seconds overall. And it says following incident, Max Verstappen passed Norris on the inside at turn 8. And what was very funny here is Max was asking literally, what about the other person? Max, stop your dry snitching. What about you? What about you, bro? You get away with so much stuff. Why are you worried about somebody else? You clearly, obviously are doing these things intentionally. You're clearly, obviously doing these things on purpose. You clearly, obviously have a menacing demeanor when you're doing these things. I saw it, bro. I saw you do it. And you know what else I want to point out that I did see? I saw how it looked when you did do it. That's what I will say. I saw how it looked when you did do it. And what I mean is how it looked when you did do it. I want to just look right here. I just want y'all to pay attention right here. Max clearly, look at that. He opened. If we go back and find Max's onboard, you can slightly tell he opens up that wheel to just run Lando wider, where he could have made the turn and left Lando space. Just pay attention to the small twitch. Pay attention. Look right there. Right there. He purposely turned more right to run. Even there was some wheel-to-wheel touching there. He purposely did that to be menacing. He purposely did that. Is this the type of driving that you all want to see? Is this the type of driving that you're going to award here? Max Verstappen doing these things. Just look at it. Look at it. He does that on purpose. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about what you're seeing. Max Verstappen is not a good wheel-to-wheel driver, and if he is, he doesn't care to act within the rules of engagement. And that's a problem. He doesn't care to act within the rules of engagement of fair, competitive, strong driving. Yes, incidences are going to happen. Collisions will happen. Even sometimes you're going to end up running a bit wide because you get carried too much into the turn. He's a dive bombing assassin. This is what Max Verstappen does, and this is what he has. But let's get to this other topic. Let's talk about something else. I just got to say, what is Mercedes doing? We're going to talk about all this again on F1 Minute tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't be late, be here. It's a part of the channel where you get to come on live. Whether you want to be on video or not, have your mic on, say what you got to say, give your opinion, have a little debate, talk about the race this past weekend. What do you think about Max Verstappen points? But I want to also know, what do y'all think about Mercedes? What about Mercedes? By the way, Lando Norris closing the gap, 47 points in the Drivers' Championship between he and Max now. 47 points. We got 4 more events and I believe a couple of sprints or a sprint left to go. It's possible. It's possible, you all. It's possible. But what I'm trying to figure out now is what's up with Mercedes? Russell's car was compromised. Lewis clearly had the pace. And you leave Russell out in front of him with the compromised front wing. Now, I just got to ask Mercedes this question because it's a what if, and if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. I know it. What if that front wing cord comes off and that carbon not only causes a puncture on Russell's car as it floats to the back, but what if it gets kicked under Lewis's car and causes a puncture there? What if you end up with 2 Mercedes with punctures that now have to come into the pits? And with that happening, Lewis is not 4th, Russell's not 5th. You're looking at a possible finish in the bottom 15 for Mercedes if that had happened. Why is Mercedes doing the things they're doing? And I saw Lewis Hamilton's press conference. I saw what he said. I saw that he said, I haven't had the pace, and that's no surprise. But the way Lewis Hamilton said it, as if he knew why he did not have that pace. And I'm clearly now, I am no longer questioning this. This is no longer a debate to me. We can have the debate, but this is no longer a debate to me where I say, you know what, Mercedes just are trying to do the best that they're trying to do. Some of these situations are just coincidence. No, this is really real. Mercedes does not have Lewis's best entry in mind, and I'll say all fair, he's leaving, so why should you? Cool. I'll let you ride with that. But I will say that there's a certain way that you should carry yourself with integrity and character as somebody's exiting, or you may be exiting a team. And I don't think Mercedes is doing that. I don't agree with what I saw. What I could see is I was on a flight and the service was horrible trying to watch this race. But Mercedes looked very silly to me. They looked very silly to me when I saw during the closing laps, like 10 more laps left, that they were going to let Lewis Hamilton have to battle it out with George Russell for a position George clearly wasn't going to be able to keep, compromising both cars, also compromising Lewis Hamilton for sure if this front wing damage or anything had happened. And it just seemed strategically as a team like a bad direction. And Mercedes just looks silly to me. And I just have lost a lot of, I've lost some respect for Mercedes via the way of Toto team who's calling these shots, who clearly can call these shots, because you get on radio when you want to get on radio and pass these love messages on when you want to pass them on. These words of confident, when you want to pass them on. Why did not Russell receive orders to let Lewis through at the most opportune moment to where you wouldn't lose too much pace, of course? That was crazy to me. That was silly to me. And Mercedes are looking silly. They're looking completely silly. So we're going to talk about that tonight, too. I want you to talk. Well, there's three main topics. Max penalties, finally, and going forward. Ferrari winning. Are they strong enough? Will they prove to you 2025 they're going to do something? And Mercedes, what will they be? What have they done? And what have they lost? That is some of the things we're going to talk about tonight on F1 Minute. It is already posted up. Join that link. Set your reminders. Hit your bell. We're going to talk about all that. So I will say this race, in a nutshell, if we go back to the timesheet and also look at this, I'm going to say that Lando Norris, I'm not sure he learned his lesson yet. I'm not sure Lando learned his lesson. I'm not sure. Lando said he's dangerous. Lando contradicts himself. Lando said it was dangerous driving, right? He said it was dangerous driving, and then he said he respected Max as a driver. How do you respect a driver who drives dangerous and does menacing things to you like that in order to try to keep position? And you're supposed to be friends. How do you respect the driver? So in that small window, I said Lando's talking out his ass. And I still don't know if Lando quite learned his lesson. I'm going to need to see this from Lando the rest of the season. And this is what Lando, and he's going to need to do more if he wants to really close and swap up this driver's championship standings. You got 47 points, bro. It is possible. Max Verstappen is going to do something again. And if he doesn't, he won't be where he's going to be. I also think Red Bull are going to have a mechanical issue. I also think that McLaren, before the end of the season, can have a better car, more superior car. But I also believe this, and this picture says it. I also believe that it is possible that this team in Ferrari are going to be doing some things. I'm going to tell you that. I think they're going to be doing some things because I do see it. I see the potential. And I question the Silver Arrows and I question Mercedes about where they are in this whole situation with Russell. But I do see the potential that Charles and Carlos could quite possibly do something. I just need to see it first. They just need to prove it to me first. They need to show me they could do it first. And Lando, you're going to have to battle these guys. You're going to have to battle Carlos. You're going to have to battle Charles. I don't think it'll be a hard problem the way you track down Charles and then you were on the hunt for Carlos. Also, McLaren wanted to call Pia in to try to attack Max. Didn't quite have the pace to get there within the laps left. Also, I would note that Piastri has looked a bit off. That's my other driver that I root for. Piastri has looked a bit off in these past few races where I haven't seen that dominant spirit from him. I haven't seen that pace from him to be where we thought he would be, especially to be in a position, if he wants to help Lando with this Drivers' Championship campaign with Max. We haven't seen Piastri anywhere in that mix as of the last, I want to say the last 3 races. I can go back and check my notes in the finishing positions and watch the races again. But I think in the last 3 races, we really haven't seen that. And I don't know what's quite going on with Piastri. I don't know if it's car development and he's still trying to get adjusted. And if it is, that's quite some time where you haven't gotten adjusted. So does that say something else you need to add into your toolbox? Or I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that about Piastri. I don't want to say that because if I say that, then it's kind of like me not believing that he has the integrity as a driver not to do something as laying flat as that. So Piastri, pick up your pace. I'm hoping to see you improve. I'm hoping to see you move back to where because a lot of people, we call him Iceman. A lot of people have good a lot of people have good notions about Piastri and his future at McLaren. And there was even some chatter that Piastri was going to be a better driver than Lando Norris going forward. And I'm still not off that. I still don't think that's out of place to even consider. But I got to say, in a McLaren car that surely has pace to be in the top 3 and Piastri's 8th, that's kind of giving me Perez, Max Verstappen vibes. Prematurely, of course, but that's kind of giving me Perez, Max Verstappen vibes. I think Pia, rest of the season, but I will say quite a bit of experience in front of Piastri as well. K-Mag has a lot of experience, and there again is a Haas in the top 10, which is wild. 2 Haas's in points again. So I do got to give it up to that. 2 Haas's in points again. That's what I need Ferrari to do is what Haas has already done. I think at this point in time, as much as I don't really care for Haas and I don't consider them an American Formula One team because they don't act or carry themselves as so, I'm going to say that Haas right now, I believe, have given us enough body of work to say something's different and it's good. Something's different at Haas and it's good. And can it carry into next season with the acquisition of Ollie Behrman and still Hulk, which has proven to be the better driver throughout the season, although K-Mag on a higher point, 7th place this weekend. I think if we were asked which one of these drivers can you take to build your team, and it was between K-Mag, Hulk, and Gasly, I think we're all choosing Hulk. K-Mag, and I think some of us would choose Gasly over K-Mag. That's just my opinion. But 2 Haas cars in points, double points for Haas is a very good accomplishment and a very good notion. Also, Lance Stroll is where he is consistently all the time, just with the tomfoolery. And Alex Albon having a very rough drive this past weekend, of course. And then Russell crashed out again, didn't he? Russell crashed out again. So Russell's adding to the cost cap situation. I just remembered that. Russell crashed out again. I don't know where Mercedes is going to be with their cost cap situation. And is this a situation where Mercedes might... I don't think Mercedes would do it. I think before Mercedes breach cost cap, as long as they're very aware of where their numbers are, I think Mercedes would clearly be, hey, there's no more updates this season. Like, everything we're doing is going to be streamlined because we're not going to breach the cost cap. They cannot afford that. They cannot afford to breach the cost cap. And I'm going to tell you a couple of reasons why. One reason is because it's clearly wrong. It's going to tie one of your hands behind your back. The other reason is if you breach that cost cap, you are a team in a position where they would like to make an example out of you just on the strength that they are a Red Bull Mafia ran FIA. I'm just going to tell you like it is. Racer X210 says Haas has extra horsepower and pace from the Toyota sticker. I knew it. Racer X. All the time when people go to AutoZone, they put all those decals on their car, and people say that just added 2 extra horsepower. It might be true. The GRZ Toyota, just putting Toyota on their car might have given them some 2J horsepower, man. There might be a 2JZ in the back of that Formula One car, man. Might be a 2JZ, inline 6 twin turbo. Matter of fact, let's just go a big T70 turbo. Might be. You could be right, Racer X. You could be right. Something's going good, though, at Haas. I'm going to give them that. And just talk briefly on some other drivers. Verstappen in 6 is just beautiful, awesome. I'm hoping he ends up, that's another race he ends up off podium, so we do have to update our chart for Max Verstappen, which is right here. We got Max, of course. we got to go ahead and update that chart because that definitely shows us where Max is going to be in regard to where he has been in regard to what he's got going on. So we definitely want to do that. I got to try to find that graphing image for Max Verstappen to see where we are on that, because I'm pretty sure that also I got to fix the percentage on Max not finishing in those positions to see where we are on that, because Max definitely has lost some more, because I don't even think he won that last race. There it is right here. So we do have to fix this graph. There are a few more races, as you know it on here. Max finished off podium, and again, like we go back to Italy, he finished sixth. He finished sixth back here on a cold. He finished fifth right here. He finished fifth again. So, yeah, this is definitely going to have way more red and yellow, and I will fix this chart, so we'll see it the next time up. Next time you see this chart, it'll be updated. I will update it today, and we're going to see what that looks like toward the end of the season. If Max finishes more, and I'm going to tell you, looking at this chart, you could say more likely Max will finish the next 4 races off podium than he will on, because he has more races off podium than he has on here. Okay, there's a total of 5 races that he's off podium, and if you look at 8 races, not the winner. So we're gonna update that graph, and we're gonna keep that running to kind of show, hey, this is where we are. Don't be mad about it. Don't be mad about it. It just is what it is. All right, it just is what it is, and so that will be something else that we also get into. So keep that in mind. Keep that. I'm going to make sure I update that graph today so we can definitely have that on hand and talk more about that. But as right now, Lance Stroll is, I think Lance Stroll is trash. Ocon, he's going to be out of there. Colapinto, big shout out to you. And Kick Sauber F1, you do what you do. So listen, that's not F1, that's not our finale lap, but it is my race debrief. You all are big, awesome. Thank you for joining in the live chat. Let me know how many of you are going to be showing up tonight so we can go into this debate and you can come on screen or on audio and have the debate and participate in the conversation. A lot of platforms don't want you all to participate in the conversation. I do, and I want your voices to be heard. So join F1 Minute tonight, 8 p.m., 2000 Eastern Standard Time, where it's more about you than it is about me. I will be there, and if you only leave me to talk, it's going to go by very fast, all right? So Wolfpack J is out. Peace.